Okay, we're going to go over the process of adding tags to a PDF document and going through the other steps necessary to make the PDF document accessible for this assignment. In the list of assignments in Blackboard, we have the file itself that's called Fix This PDF File, and then we have some detailed instructions down below. There's also a list of links to some more comprehensive instructions on how to make PDF content accessible, which will these instructions go above and beyond what you need to do for the assignment, but they're definitely helpful. So the first thing you need to do is click on the link to download the PDF file and make sure that you save it to your hard drive. You can't just open it up in your browser. And you need to have Acrobat Pro to be able to access the file and to be able to add the tags to it. So if you're using some other product, you can't, it simply won't work. So you can't use just Adobe Reader or any other PDF conversion program, at least any that I'm aware of. I don't think any of them convert to tagged PDF correctly, other than going through the process in Acrobat Pro. So you're going to need to download Acrobat Pro. So if you go down to the detailed instructions, there's a link to download the trial version of Acrobat Pro, and you should be able to install it either on a Mac or on Windows and get the trial version up and running. And if that doesn't work, let's say that you've installed the trial version at some point in the past on that computer, then you're going to have to use a different computer, or you're going to have to purchase the product, or you could use one of the computers in the computer labs on campus that has the Adobe Creative Suite with Acrobat Pro. Okay, so once you've got it installed, the first thing you want to do, as it says here in the instructions, is add tags to the document. So the process for adding tags will look like this. Let's go over to Acrobat. Here is the file, and I've got some tags on the left, or I've got some options on the left-hand side that you probably won't have. In fact, let me just reset those. So it'll look like this when you first open the program. It'll just have a few options, and then if you want to activate some of the other options, which you will for this assignment, then you right-click on the gray area on the left, and the first one that I'm going to activate is tags. And while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and activate the order as well, because we're going to need that a little bit later. The order is where you check the reading order. Tags is where you add tags. So right now it says no tags available, which means there's nothing in here to make this document accessible to screen readers. If you tried to access this right now with a screen reader, you're not going to hear anything. It's basically just going to stop. It can't read anything because there's no tagged content. The tags are essentially like HTML, so you can add paragraphs and headings and tables and images and other things. The wording is a little bit different. Some things are the same, like you have P tags for paragraphs and H1 for heading level 1 and so on. But then the images are called figures, and you have a few small differences like that. But other than that, the concept is pretty much the same. So with no tags available, the first thing you want to do is add tags. So you click on the icon right below the word tags, and you have two options. One is to create a tags route. The other one is to add tags to document. If I were going to do everything from scratch by hand, I would do the create tags route, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let it do some of the tagging for me. So I'm going to click on add tags to document, and it goes through the process, and when it's done, it'll give us this report. And I'm not going to pay much attention to this report right now. It gives us a little bit of an idea of how accessible this is. Sort of. It's not really all that comprehensive. And besides, I've only started the process. I know there are things that I have to fix, so I'm going to ignore this for now. I'm going to go down to the tags, and now you can see instead of saying no tags available, it says tags, and then I can click on the triangle to expand it, and you can see that it's added some tags. One of them is a paragraph. So right away, one thing you want to do is right-click and then select Highlight Content. Make sure that that's checked. With that checked, when you click on a tag over on the left-hand side, it will highlight the content on the right-hand side. It's very subtle, but there's a very thin light blue line around that paragraph that says Research Report. If I expand the next one and click on the H1, that puts the blue outline around the words that say Common Core State Standards Alignment. So you can see that that's now highlighted, and if I expand even further, there's an H2 down here, and that's highlighted now, and so on. So that's what that highlighting does, is it allows you to see where the tags are in the document itself. Now, to make working with tags easier, right now they're split up into sections and parts, which are completely unnecessary. You don't need them at all, and in fact they can confuse things a little bit. So what I want you to do is to use the mouse to drag and drop and to move the tags so that they're all on the same level. So right now the paragraph is at the top level, and if we collapse this, the parts that it has identified here are also at the top level. But I'm going to move the H1 so that it's right below the paragraph, and I'm going to move the H2 so it's right below the H1, and expand this, and then I've got a bunch of other tags. So I'm going to move them all at once. I'm going to click on the top one, then hold down the Shift key, click on the bottom one. So now that they're all selected, I'm going to move all of them together and put them under the H2. And now that I've done that, I've got basically two empty sections embedded inside of each other, embedded inside of a part. All of those at the bottom are now unnecessary. So what I can do is actually delete them. But before I do that, I will warn you that there's no undo in this process. So once you start deleting things, they're gone, and you can add them in later. You can go through the whole tagging process all over. But what I recommend doing is saving things in increments. So I would save the document, let's say version 1, so you can maybe put a V1, and then once you make some changes, save it as V2, and then make some changes and save it as V3, make some changes, save it as V4. So you may end up with 20 different versions of the file by the time you're done, and that's fine. The reason that I think that's a smart idea is because because you can't undo if you ever do something that you decide that's not quite right and you make a mistake, you'll want to go back. So yeah, it's kind of unnecessary in a sense that it's kind of a flaw in the program that they make you do it that way, but that's the way that the program is built at this point. So I'd recommend going through the process and saving it. Since I'm not doing this for the assignment, I'm not going to worry about it as much right now. So I'm going to go ahead and just pretend that I've saved it, and right click and go on delete tag, and now you can see that those are gone. I still have this part below, and I want to move things up, so I'm going to move up the H1. And one thing I'll note is that depending on where you put it, you could accidentally put it, if I expand this paragraph, you could accidentally put it beneath the paragraph. So now that the H1 is there, you can see it's indented inside that paragraph. So this H1 is part of that paragraph, which it's not a good place for it. So I'm going to move it back out. In fact, I have to put it back where it came from. And now it's moved it to the bottom. And I'm going to simplify it by collapsing that, move it up, and now it's back where I want it. And you do have to be careful. You want to make sure that you're putting them back in the order where they started. If you just start putting them anywhere, then you're going to put everything out of order, and the screen reader is going to read it out of order, and you don't want that. Inside of each of these sections is more content. So I'm going to select the first one, hold down the Shift key, select the last one, and then move them all up as a group. And do the same thing for this group right here. Move it up. And I'll keep doing this. I'm expanding all of the sections, and you can see it's a little bit tedious and cumbersome in some ways, but it will make it easier in the end to find things and to be able to distinguish the different parts. So now that I've emptied out this section right here, these several embedded sections, now I would recommend saving it at this point, but you can delete it. And you can wait till the end of the process to delete the empty tags if you want. And I may have deleted too many even right there, which it looks like I did. So see, there's a perfect case in point. So I would need to go back and start over at this point because I haven't saved it, but luckily I do have another one that has already been saved up to that point. So this is what the end product should look like once you've moved all of the tags into their proper place. So now they're all on the same level. And this document has been saved. So I kind of cheated a little bit. Well, didn't cheat. I did the work. I just am trying to speed up the process by showing you the end product here. So this is what it looks like with all of them on the same level. And so if you go back to the instructions in the assignment, it says add tags to the document, and then it gives some instructions there. Put all the tags on the same level and delete the unnecessary tags. So I've already done that. And now I'm going to mark up the headings appropriately. So I'll jump back to the document, the PDF document. And some of these are already marked. So you can see it's got an H1 that corresponds to the Common Core State Standards alignment. Then it's got H2, which is this advanced placement down here. And then it's got an H3, which is the authors, the list of authors there. Now, in reality, the list of authors shouldn't be marked as a heading. And the advanced placement, you could possibly consider that an H2. When I gave the live session, I said you could mark it as a paragraph, and that's probably a legitimate option. You could maybe argue that the advanced placement could be an H2, but the list of authors really shouldn't be an H3. So I would change that, and the easiest way to change it is to click on it, and then it highlights the whole thing, and then change it by typing a capital P. And it does matter, it has to be capital P, and it has to be capital H if you're doing the headings. So I've changed that now to a paragraph, and that changes the semantics. So now when a screen reader comes across this, it's not going to say heading level 3, it'll say, well, actually it won't say anything, it'll just read the text because it's just a plain paragraph. Okay, so that looks good. I'll go ahead and leave the H2 as an H2, but you could change that to a paragraph. You could even combine it with the phrase up above so that the whole thing is part of the H1. That would be a legitimate choice as well. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and leave that. So I've made those changes here on this page, and what I want to do is make similar changes to the other parts of the document. One way, so looking on the left-hand side, it doesn't divide it into pages. So it can be a little bit confusing. You can click on the tags, and that'll take you to the different sections, and it'll highlight the appropriate parts, which is good. And another tool that is helpful is in the Tools section, and there's a tool called Accessibility down here, except that when you first open the program, it's not going to be there. So you have to activate it, just like you have to activate the tags. So you click on the icon in the upper right, choose Accessibility. So you can turn it off, you can turn it back on. So yours will probably be off to begin. Whoops, it'll be off to begin with. So let's turn it on. And then the tool that I want you to pay attention to is the Touchup reading order. So you click on that, and it gives you this pop-up here, and it begins to show these boxes around the different parts of content. And it allows us to manipulate them and to change the tags in a different way. So I showed you how to change it by just typing it. And you have to be careful here because you can't just type anything you want. You have to know what's available, and they do have to be all capitalized. But another way to do it is once the touch-up reading order is activated, like it says right here, draw a rectangle around the content, then click one of the buttons below. So what I want to do is change this line that says about the College Board into a heading. Right now it's just part of this one continuous paragraph. But I'm going to select it by dragging my mouse. And now it's really kind of hard to see, but it says, well, it's got a little blue outline around those letters. And I'm going to change that to a heading level 2. So what this did is it broke it up into 3 parts. We've got part number 1, and even though it's really hard to see, there's a part number 2 underneath there, and a part number 3 that's below that. So I've split it up, and I've put a heading level 2 in the middle. And if I go down further, you can see it's got these paragraphs here. And let me go down to, actually what I'm going to do, since some of these seem like they might be a little bit out of order, so I'm going to do is click on the reading order and then jump down to the page after that. So these are the different pages, and shows you the blocks of content. So I've got this page with contents, and the word contents should be a heading, but it's not. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to mark that as a heading level 2 also. And you can see it broke it up into heading and paragraph for below that. And I'm going to go down to the next page, and here I'm going to do something similar. So I want this top one to be a heading level 2. Select everything there, change it to heading level 2. And this word introduction should probably be a heading level 3. And didn't select, and that's really hard to see, but it is selected now. So I'm going to change that to heading level 3. And that looks good there. And go to the next page. I'm guessing that should be a heading level 2, followed by a heading level 3 again. And then the advanced placement program, I'm going to select that, change that to heading level 3 also. And this should probably be heading level 4. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And this AP English language should be heading level 4. Okay, so it's breaking up the content into these different blocks, and I would continue to do that for the rest of the pages. So, the question comes up, does it have to be, do I have to do these changes on all the pages? And the answer is yes. So all of these you should mark up with the appropriate heading level and through the entire document, okay? For the sake of time, I'm not going to do every single one of them, but you would just continue what I started and do it that same way, okay? So that's marking up the headings. Let's go back to our instructions here. And so we'll assume that we've done everything for the headings. Let's go to add alt text to the graphics. So most of the graphics, if not all of them, are on page 1. So let's go over there. And you can see with the Touchup reading order tool on the screen that it says figure with no alternate text. So what I need to do is find those figures and add alternate text. So I would do it in the tags panel. And you've got figure, that's the image. So I'm going to right click on that, go to properties, and this is where you can also change the type of tag here, but I don't need to. I'm just showing that this is another way to do it. You can see the available list of tags. So if I wanted to change it into a list, I could do that. That would be wrong, but I could. And I'm just going to put it back to a figure. And I'm going to add alternate text. So this image says College Board Inspiring Minds. So that's what I'm going to type in. College Board Inspiring Minds. And I'll click on close. And then when I put the mouse back, or when I click in the window again, it shows up as College Board Inspiring Minds for the alt text. And the next image, I'm going to do the same. So right click on it, go down to properties, and this image is the group of students with the word connection. So I'm going to describe it, and there's no one right way to describe this, but I'm going to describe it as a group of students with the word connection superimposed on top, which may or may not be the best description, but that's what I'm going to stick with. And then when I click on the window, then you can see that it changes the alt text. Okay, and those may be all of the images that you have to worry about. I don't see any others. There is this down here, but that's text. But you go through, look for any other figure tags. I don't see any others, so I think we're okay. All right, so we've fixed that problem. And then it says create a separate paragraph for the text in the blue text boxes. So by that, I'm referring to these kind of side text boxes. Like here we go. And I've scrolled too far now. Stop. It's taking on a life of its own. All right, there we go. So I'll come up to this one, and what I want to do is use the Touchup reading tool to highlight the whole thing, and then mark it as text. So now it's marked separately, and yes, it's true the border goes way beyond it and it looks kind of strange, but it is marked up correctly. And the reason I want to do that is because if I don't do that, there's a possibility that the words are going to be inserted in the order that they appear in these paragraphs to the side of them, and it won't be recognized as its own unit. It's a possibility. So I want to select the whole thing, mark it as its own paragraph, and it is just a paragraph. So I don't have to do anything else, I just mark it as text. And you notice that the letter E has disappeared on us. The reason for that is because it started out as a Word text box, and to fix this goes beyond the scope of what we're going to do for this assignment. So I'm not going to ask you to fix that, so don't worry about that. There is, in fact, with the next text box, you'll see that the problem is even worse. In the original document, all of those letters are there, but once they're converted in here, because it came from a Word text box, it just causes problems. So just be aware, anytime that you use a text box in Word, that's potentially going to cause some problems for accessibility. So don't do that. This is basically the message. Don't use text boxes when you're creating documents in Word, but it's kind of too late for this one. To fix it goes beyond the scope of what we're going to do. So for the purposes of the assignment, don't worry about it. If this were something on production level for your company, then yes, of course, you'd have to worry about it, but we're not going to go there right now. So this one highlights everything, and in order to get it to work the way we need it, we're going to have to separate it out. So what we're going to do first is highlight some of the individual paragraphs, mark it as text, highlight this paragraph, and it is already marked as text, and I missed the top line there, so let me grab it again. It looks like I got it that time, so click on text again. And actually, now that I've done that, it appears, well, let's see. No, it's not quite right. These areas are not quite getting the parts we need. So we're gonna keep going from here. Let me highlight the bottom part. Mark that as text. And that one just blended right in, so that didn't quite do what I wanted to do. Let's see if I can separate this out. This is one of the trickier pages on this particular assignment. Okay, that did separate it out, so that's good. And now what I want to do is see if I can highlight just the blue box and mark it as text, and there we go. So that's the distinction that I needed, and that actually undid some of the other editing that I did below, but that's okay because it gave me the text box, which is really the important part. So yeah, it's kind of quirky. Working with PDF formats for accessibility is it's quirky. But one thing I'll point out though is that everything that we're doing on this document, we're doing because the document wasn't saved or wasn't created with accessibility in mind. So if we had started in Word, created it with a good accessible format, added alt text to begin with, and didn't use text boxes and put in all of the headings and everything like that, all the things that I'm showing you, we wouldn't really have to do because they would have already been done. And then when you do the conversion to PDF, all that formatting would be carried over. But the caveat there is that only happens if you have Acrobat Pro and if you use Acrobat Pro for the conversion. If you just use some print PDF software program, then it won't convert into an accessible tagged format either, and you have to go through all this process. So really the only way to do it is if you've got Acrobat Pro and you use the Acrobat Pro conversion features. But if you go directly from Word, convert it through Acrobat Pro, it should create a reasonably accessible document. You may still have to touch it up a little bit, but it'll create a reasonably accessible document. This document came to us completely inaccessible, so we're going backwards and we're recreating the things that should have been there in the first place. So that's why it's kind of a long, drawn-out process. Okay, so I've marked that up separately, so that part is done. And there's only the 2 text boxes, so we're essentially done with that part of the assignment. So next we have to go and add table headers with scope. So let's go back over to our document, and the tables are at the very bottom, the last 3 pages. So you can see it marks the whole table, and to add the features that we need to do this in a very particular way. We have to click on the number in the upper left, which highlights the whole thing, changes the background behind the number to blue, and then in our touch-up reading order, this table editor option becomes available. So if I click away from that, the table editor is not available. Even if I click on the table, nothing. So I have to click on that number. Kind of strange, but they make us do that. So now that I've clicked on the number, I can click on Table Editor, and what I need to do is mark up all of the header cells. So I'm going to right-click on the header cell and go to Table Cell Properties, change it to the header cell, and because this is the header for the column, I'm going to change it to Column. And that changes it to this reddish or pink color. And then I'm going to right-click on the next one, change that one to a header as well, mark it for column, and do the same for the next cell over. So this will allow a screen reader to come to the tables and allow the user to navigate by cell, and it'll read the headers appropriately. We also have some headers on the side. So I'm going to right-click on this cell, mark it as a header cell, and this time I'm going to mark it as a row header. So now that belongs to these 2 cells to the right of it. Do the same thing for this next one down here. Mark it as a header cell for the row. Same thing for the cell below there. And then here I have a continuation of the table. So I'm going to click on this table, click on the number, click on Table Editor, and then repeat the process. Change this to a header cell, mark it for column. Change this one to a header cell, mark it for column again. And the same for this cell here. And then I would also do the same for the cells on the left, but mark them as row headers just as I did for the table up above. So I'm not going to go through every single step because you've seen me do it. And if you need it to review it, you can always just rewind the video. Okay, that's it really for the tables. So I'm going to go back to our list of instructions. And now it says fix any problems with the reading order. So the reading order is something that we have to change in the order panel, and those numbers in the left, upper left corner of each of the boxes are how you know what the reading order is. So if we look at this, we've got 1 for the reading order here, 2 for the reading order, the image there, and it seems like we may have lost our heading structure. What happened there? No, it's still there. Okay. Although it doesn't show up separately here, which is a little bit strange, but again, like I said, it can be a bit quirky. So with the reading order here, we've got number 1 for all the blue content there. Number 2 is what follows there, and then number 3 is the image below. And that actually works pretty well. Depending on how you marked it up, you may have to rearrange things. If you have to rearrange them, it's also just a drag and drop, so you can drag one up to the to a different area, move it. So I'm going to save the document as it is right now because I've had some issues of crashing when I change the reading order. So let me save it as, I'm going to call it, just put a V2 at the end of that. And it collapses the whole thing, which is inconvenient, but there you go. And if I need to rearrange it, I can move this image up. And so now I've rearranged it. So now it's 1, 2, and then the College Board logo is number 3. I don't think that's a good idea, so I'm going to put it back. But I'm just showing you that that's how you would rearrange things. So if you come up with something that's out of order, it's just a drag and drop process. So go to page 2, and we've got 1, 2 is the heading about the College Board, 3, and then we've got this area down here. It says connect, and then for further information. So that's real text. It looks kind of like a graphic, but it is real text. And that's a pretty good reading order, so it doesn't need to be fixed. Let's go to page 3. 1 and 2, that's pretty straightforward, doesn't need to be fixed. And you just evaluate that. So far everything is looking actually pretty decent. But if anything turns up out of order, then you would need to rearrange it by dragging and dropping. Now when you get to the blue boxes, there you have to make a decision. Where does the blue box go? Because it's not really part of the flow of the text. Should it go up at the top of the document? Should it go at the bottom? Should it come after one of the paragraphs? You need to decide that, and you need to arrange it so that it fits in the right place. As it is right now, it's coming after this heading that says the Advanced Placement Program, and then it's going to read the box, and then it's going to continue on. Is that a good order? Well, you could make a case for that, but you decide that, and you put it in the right order. You can rearrange it and put it in just what you decide makes the most sense. And these look like they're in pretty good order. Here, we've got this sidebar coming in after this first paragraph. Is that the best order? You need to make that decision. Okay, so it's just evaluating the reading order, making sure it makes sense, and then dragging and dropping if it doesn't. Okay, next step is add metadata to the document. So what I want you to do is add a title. Now when I created this, I did actually add a title, even though originally I meant not to. But I'm going to ask you to change the title. Don't leave it as the title that I gave it. So probably the best title, in fact, let me cancel this, is going to be the title of the document itself. So Common Core State Standards Alignment. So let's go back to File Properties and move this down so I can see it. Description, title, we'll say Common Core State Standards Alignment. Okay, and that's the title, and you can change the author so it's not my name if you want to change it to your name. And then we're going to go to Initial View, and this one I've already saved it, but or actually no. So the default is the file name, but you want to change it to document title. And the reason is when you're using a screen reader, the first thing that you hear is going to be one of these two, whichever it is, either the document title or the file name. But file names don't make much sense. If you look at the file name right now, it says same-level v2.pdf, and that's not going to be read very intelligently by a screen reader. So you want to change it to the document title, which is what we just created in the previous screen. Common Core State Standards Alignment, that makes much more sense. So that's what the screen reader is going to say when it opens the document. And then the last metadata change that I'm going to require for the assignment is to add the language. So you scroll down until you find English, and you say OK. Okay, so that takes care of the metadata. And then the last step, as it says, is double check everything, then submit the assignment. So I've gone through all the steps. Hopefully that clears up some things. If you do have questions, you can go ahead and ask me. Send me an email, and that should be good to go.